to Los Harrow Podcast. This is your weekly film podcast, among other things, featuring at least two people, but for this week, something a little special. But as normally, I am joined by my co-host, Eric Sayour.
Hello, I'm the one who hasn't been talking about these films for like every week.
Right, so you're not burned out on it and just let it happen already. And joining us for our second ever guest episode. Is it just the Matt one?
Yeah, second.
Our second.
If you don't count the Alan episodes.
Yes. If you don't count the Alan as audio engineer episodes. Our second and most packed guest episode ever. We're just breaking that record. You might recognize some of these guys. No, I'm not going to start alphabetically. Whatever. Connor McGraw.
My God, siphon filter. Sorry, I was sitting on that all day for some reason. That's a reference for nobody.
I know, but I still love it. Hunter Davenport.
This is a Phantom Zone podcast now.
We're taking over.
And Eric Fedorchak.
I've traveled a very far distance to be on this podcast.
Oh yeah, he even brought Jesse with him.
This is a glorified Phantom Zone episode with a different title.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I told them, if this goes too long, I'm splitting it in half and putting it on both feeds, because why not?
I think that's the best. the best thing that can happen.
Us do long show, no how.
No, not us. Never, ever.
No, never. Not once.
No,
we didn't record last week for 3.5 hours.
No, we've never done a 3.5 hour show. No.
These episodes of Phantom Zone are getting so long that I'm falling asleep during them.
Well, hopefully we can not do that tonight. Okay.
Tight ship.
Tight ship. Yes, that's right. And I'm the captain tonight. Ooh. Okay, so the theme of tonight, the idea for the night. The reason we're having my Phantom Zone compatriots on tonight is because we are going to be discussing Marvel, specifically Marvel Phase 3, which is the phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we are currently in the middle of, because God, we're only in the middle of it and we're already getting an Avengers movie. But yes, we are midway through and we're going to talk about it so far. Themes, general wider things that we're noticing, and the individual films with some time and some, distance from them so we can think about them. Some of them we have far more distance, so we'll have even more interesting things to say, hopefully. But maybe not. You never know.
The thing with these movies is that the first time you see them in theaters, they're always the most amazing movie you ever seen. Opening night, the Marvel film is never as good as that. It's always at least fun.
I haven't soured on any of these. Can't speak for everybody, but I feel pretty positive about all of them still.
Yeah. No,
one or two of them way more than the others, but.
No, I definitely feel like this was the phase that Marvel was really hitting its stride with quality of everything.
I will say this: the bottom is still very high. Well, mostly.
Hey guys, Thor 2 is better than Ragnarok?
Whoever said that should be shot.
Most likely. And they will be at some point. Okay. So to begin, let's go to the beginning of Phase 3. Fresh off of Avengers Age of Ultron and Ant-Man, of course. Captain America: Civil War. Yes, this film is 2 years old. It's 2 years old.
I don't work like that anymore.
I don't know how this is 2 years old, but it's 2 years old. I'm dying, if you couldn't tell. It came out 2016, about a year ago, or 2 years ago now. 2 years ago now, to this day, critical reviews were starting to go around. People were just sharing the Twitter reviews because Marvel was just go all in on your Twitter reactions.
We don't care.
Yeah. And
damn it, Hydra.
And the hype was just getting super high. So yeah, I don't know where to start with this movie because I still think it's one of the better Marvel movies in general.
I have a place to start with, and it's the conversation you can walk afterwards because, quite frankly, either you side with Cap or Iron Man.
Yep.
They're both kind of right and they're both kind of wrong, and the Accords are both one of the best things and one of the worst things you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is more wrong than the other.
One of them is more wrong than the other because one of them resorts to fucking murder, and he's like, nah, everybody's gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
He also caused the whole thing, so...
Well, that's another topic of discussion because Tony Stark is Dr. Frankenstein and doesn't know when to stop.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't understand what stop means. What is this word?
Here's the one thing about this movie. It makes absolutely no sense. Like there's the plan, Zemo's evil plan. There's nothing in it that works. No one, like, you don't have any idea why he's doing what he's doing, and it's just not a good idea.
Nope.
Yeah, it does
does
hinge on a whole lot of things just happening the exact right way.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is way outside of his control at that.
I still think that he's an excellent villain because he's not a world-conquering or destructive force or anything. He's just a dude who loves his family. He's fucking angry.
I think this movie works thematically like much better than it does, but the plot itself, I don't think it's the series of events that happen feel like kind of nonsensical at times. Yeah. But then you're watching an awesome fight scene, so you don't really care.
Right.
Well, if you really break down like The Dark Knight, the string of hard luck that people go through the last the second, third, and surprise fourth act of the movie, are all complete happenstance. Like,
true.
Yeah. It's all lightning in a bottle, like every time.
Well, and Eric, on your point about the actions of the movie don't make any sense or they don't work. I think the Zemo plotline, yes, you can definitely say that. But I feel like the Cap and Iron Man storyline works perfectly for what it is. I mean, you need that Zemo storyline to happen, but they could find some other impetus for them to be at odds with each other like this, and it would still make their storyline, honestly, I think the stronger of the storylines that are going on during that movie.
Zemo's plan is the most roundabout way to show someone a video.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
He could have just uploaded it to YouTube, to be honest, and it would have had...
He was in the compound place.
He could have showed it to Tony at any time during the movie.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he could have done this at any point. He could have gone and got the video, come back, and just, like, slowly, like, revealed clips of it to people. You know what I mean? Like, he sends, like, 10 seconds someplace, 10 seconds somewhere else, and to sort of just, like, slowly let that go, and it would have been just as effective. And he still could have blown up buildings, he still could have framed Bucky, he still could have done all that stuff. He didn't necessarily need to bring everybody to the compound. And also, I mean, if his plan is to bring down the Avengers, why not make that a big public thing? Like, why not have it be where Tony and Cap are, like, punching each other to death, like, in the middle of New York or something like that? So there are some, like, problems with the plot, but then, you know, when the Russo brothers say, you know, their entire idea, it was it 7 or was it... Yeah, 7, I think, was their basis for this. The video was sort of their head in a box. Which I still think that's like a clever idea. So I guess from that point of view, I see what they were going for, and it kind of makes it more interesting. But I do agree with Eric Sayour's point about the plot being kind of a little bit...
It's flimsy, but it works. For what like,
well, having rewatched Avengers recently, the entire Loki stealing someone's eyeball plot is kind of ridiculous.
It is.
So I kind of forgive silly shit like this. I'm like, it's like, I need an eyeball. So you're gonna dress up and go to this fucking ball and blend in, and then throw a guy in a podium and stab him in the eyeball and send it holographically to Clint Barton, who's somewhere. This is dumb.
You can
yeah.
argue that he doesn't really need to be stealthy about it.
No.
He's like,
I mean, this is all so he can steal Heath Ledger's plotline of The Dark Knight. Like, this is all so he can get captured and use that as his advantage to take down.
This is in.
Right. So it's just like, okay, well, you can't really get too angry.
Also, on the note of I don't work like that no more. There's no fucking way in hell. There's no goddamn way in hell that Crossbones would have survived the events of Winter Soldier. So
yeah.
Well, yeah, because a building falls on him, and I remember seeing the wanting to call bullshit because that was but there's a lot of. And also, I think it's important to remember that this movie is building on all the years before it in the same way that Infinity War is, in that there was 8 years of story and plot, and we came to know these characters. And this is something I brought up on an episode of Phantom Zone, is that Cap and Iron Man's individual arcs throughout the entirety of the MCU up until this point was both of them switching sides, essentially, from as far as like their political.
Tony's very anti-establishment, and Cap is very pro-establishment. And then by the time Winter Soldier rolls around, Captain America's like, I can't trust the establishment because the establishment was rotten to begin with.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stark sells out to the establishment. Here's the thing about Civil War that and here's what I throw a lot of people when they say, oh, I'm pro Tony 100%. Tony threw himself in league with Thunderbolt Ross without even blinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ross is a piece of shit.
Yep. As we've learned many times over and over.
Yeah.
The thing about Tony is that he becomes more and more scared of himself. He's basically a coward by the time this movie happens. That's why he wants like the occurrence to happen. And I think that arc of him in his post-traumatic stress in Iron Man 3, and then him fucking up big time in Avengers 2, and this is the perfect end to both these characters' arc.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you described it as fucking up royally in Avengers 2 because, I forgot how kind of important the scene was where he starts laughing and everyone else is like, this is not funny. And he's like, but isn't it though? And everyone's like, no, dude.
Yeah. He goes kind of crazy in Ultron, and he loses sight of his, of what it means to be a human being for a second there.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the end of that movie is sort of a life reaffirmment for Tony Stark. I don't know if it necessarily sends him in a good direction, but because we see
Tony always learns the wrong lessons every time he's taught something.
He does. He learns the exact wrong lesson, or it's also that he overcorrects. So
yes. Oh God, yeah.
He way overcorrects, and that's what leads him into bigger trouble. It's just overcorrection after overcorrection, leading him into a bad place. So yeah, I think that's a sort of a good sort of summary of the movie, I guess. What do we see from this movie that is affecting where we are now, other than just the most obvious aspects of it?
What this is, I mean, this, I don't know, this might not fall into the question you're asking, Arlen, but I do really feel like with Civil War specifically, it's the first time you see these people who have been fighting, for lack of a better term, gods, like be it Ultron, Loki, whatever, and they're essentially taken down by a man who has, mind you, a confusing plan, but still a plan. And it shows that maybe they're not quite the gods that they thought they were becoming, or at least they're shown a little hubris because of this fact.
It's like it's the thing that everyone points out. It's like Marvel is humans trying to be gods,
and DC is gods pretending to be men.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's that, like essentially that.
I think to where we are now, like even throughout Homecoming, I think that one of the biggest things that will pop up is the complete and utter lack of trust between most of them.
Yeah.
Because like everyone in Civil War more or less turns on each other.
Yeah, everybody. There's a triple cross at one point. So it's that's a good point. There's not really any trust in this universe, and I noticed that rewatching the Infinity War trailers, you can't really pin down where anybody is for most of the movie. That's probably intentional. They probably don't want us to know the exact plot of how everything lays out.
Oh well, on that note, having rewatched the trailer for God knows how many times now, there is one of the trailers where Gamora is saying, Thanos, blah blah, explaining him, and you see Tony say what's his name again? If you notice, I believe Tony's actually in Doctor Strange's Sanctorum. At that point. Yeah, you can see that there's wallpaper, and that's obviously Gamora explaining who Thanos is to Thor. Which that's the thing I'm very curious about, is how they're going to bring all of this together. But that's for later on in the discussion.
Definitely.
I do wonder if this movie is gonna start where Civil War ends in terms of relationship of what happened in this movie, because Marvel movies haven't been that great at continuity, especially when there's a few movies in between.
They have not been great at making sure stakes remain high and that consequences matter.
Exactly. I'm talking more about direct consequences from a movie to the next.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Civil War is the first one that does it really well, because it's the direct result of Ultron. But after that, it's not as direct, and I do wonder if it's just gonna start and there'll be Tony saying one thing to Steve and him saying one thing back, and then they're friends again.
Yeah.
The one thing I picked up in the trailer was that and I think it's one of the stills, Tony is using the flip phone Cap gave him.
That is,
okay.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's basically his way of saying shit, I have to call him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and on your point, Eric, too, I think this will definitely have, excuse me, some form of direct continuity from Civil War, because we haven't actually seen what all of these people are doing since Civil War, because all the movies after Civil War have been characters that are either just being introduced in the Marvel Universe or had an existing film, but it's still kind of outside of what the main fracas is in the Marvel
Ragnarok
Universe.
is more or less a soft reboot.
And Guardians 2, I mean, that's just a continuation of their little chunk of the universe.
Yeah.
And everyone else, it was their first movie.
Fair. I
One of my biggest takeaways so far, though, thematically, was, like I said before, the discussion, maybe not thematically, but the discussion you can actually have amongst a group about who is right, who is wrong, what the Accords mean. If you really break the Accords down, it's low-key horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Because
definitely.
Cap brings up the movie, he says, what if, he loosely implies, what if some, foreign diplomat is hey, go in this country and start a fucking rebellion, or take out this leader that I don't like.
Yeah.
They'd be an international hit squad.
Yeah, that's...
Essentially.
Yeah, that's kind of something that he's definitely worried about, because he knows that even though Hydra's been revealed, Hydra could easily infiltrate the Accords. There's no reason to suggest that they couldn't.
And also, what if a country who is not part of the Accords, who maybe is part of the United Nations but not a part of the Accords, what if they're fuck it, we want our own Avengers?
Yeah. What if good old Russia is let's have our own team?
We'll have a fucking arms race over superhumans.
It's a good point. It's a very good point. I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is Black Panther. He is a major part of this movie, and I've been saying this for a while now. Black Panther, to me, he's the heir to Captain America's place in the team. He's the guy who's sort of going to be the moral backbone in the future.
No doubt. He's definitely Cap.
I think he's kind of both Cap and Tony. The best parts
in weird
of both
ways.
of them.
Yeah. And he's gonna, and in my head, it's him and Strange, and they're the ones who are gonna have very Tony Cap type arguments in the future. So that's something that I always take away from this is they're setting him up to be the leader in the future. And it's interesting that we've definitely seen him stepping up both in Black Panther. He very clearly says at the end of Black Panther, I'm making it my responsibility to, help the rest of the world. And there's a TV spot out where he says, "We're not just fighting for one; we are fighting for everyone." And it's stuff like that where it's that you see the seeds of that in Civil War, but at the same time you also see that he's kind of selfish. But we see the end of that selfishness. We see him kicking off that shell at the very end of the movie.
Yeah, he has the best arc in the film, I think, going from vengeance to justice, and I think it's very indicative of his role in the future.
Yeah, and there's something else I want to bring up too. It's that because this is the year that Batman vs Superman came out, and this is a movie that tried to handle a similar subject and failed. And it's superhero accountability.
Yeah,
because Eric. Not Fedorchik. Sayour, have you seen the Road to Civil War trailer?
The trailer.
It's a supercut someone made on YouTube. It's really popular. It's called The Road to Civil War. It's 9 minutes long, and it details all the major events leading up to Civil War in a really beautiful way. And what it kind of shines a light on is all the actual, if you look at that world, real world death and destruction that has happened since the Avengers formed. And how, no one really ever talks about it. And they even bring up Thor Dark World. This ridiculous catastrophe happened in London, and no one ever speaks of it. And I think that Civil War handles accountability very well. Because, like you said about Tony, he overcorrects. He's faced with one person who's like, my son died in one of your battles. And he's like, oh my God! End the fight before it finishes.
Definitely.
And Cap, who's a soldier, is like, dude, people die. This is what we do. And people are going to die all the time. You can't freak out over one.
Right. Yeah,
I think that's an interesting divide between everybody else, because you see someone which is funny because, Falcon's a soldier too, but then again, so is Rhodey.
Yeah.
And they both go in opposite directions.
I think everyone that thinks Iron Man is right is a cop. And that's my conclusion on Civil War.
That's a good point.
I mean, you're not wrong.
God damn it. All right. I think that's now. That's
I'm on to you, officer.
You have to tell me that you're a narc.
You got to tell me you're a cop. That's the rules.
That's right. Okay, I think we're good on Civil War for now until we get to the sort of larger theme stuff later on. So now let's move on to, I guess it's a film. I don't know what to call it.
Oh, you're being too harsh again.
Yeah.
I guess I will admit that it does have a plot and there are characters, and it was shot with a camera.
About like a Halle Berry's Catwoman, for God's sake.
I know. I'm just.
It's
certainly partially
was a
bit, but no, okay. So Doctor Strange, the first follow-up to Civil War. And this is a movie I was actually very excited about before going to see it.
I was too.
Yeah. It was a controversial film. Farther we get away from it, the more I'm like, maybe rightfully so. Probably. But controversy aside, because that's for a different podcast. That is not this one.
Here's my thing with Doctor Strange. I've watched it a couple times, and each time I've kind of liked it less.
I agree.
I will say the end, how he beats Dormammu is the best part of that movie.
It is, yes.
Yes.
It's immortalized in our first movie special review. But yeah, I will say this: I like the characters more every single time I watch this movie. I like Strange more. I like Mordo. I like Christine Palmer. I like Wong. I even like Caecilius more. Every single time I watch it.
Well, how can you not like Mads?
Right.
Mads watch.
Mm-hmm. And I even like the Ancient One more with just everybody. I think they all grow with more viewings.
My main problem with this movie is how can you have Tilda Swinton and Mads Mikkelsen in a movie and they both are super boring? It feels impossible. It's impossible. There's two of the most fun actors to watch.
Dude, Mads Mikkelsen does a movie where he doesn't say a fucking word, and he's like a lightning rod of energy the entire time.
Yeah, and then
Valhalla Rising for those who haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's a Nicholas Winding Refn film.
Yeah, he's magnetizing, and he doesn't say a single word the entire movie.
He just about someone with his hands.
He does.
He's the best Bond villain ever. Period.
Yes. Yes.
He's the best part. He's the best part of Clash of the Titans until he just leaves the movie.
Yeah, he's, as far as I'm concerned, he's the definitive Lecter on screen. So he has so many credits to him, and he's one of the better parts of Rogue One also. So
he's better in the Death Stranding trailer than in this movie.
And he doesn't speak in the Death Stranding trailer either.
Yeah.
That's fair. That is very fair. Yeah.
I think the problem with Mads Mikkelsen in this movie is that, like, usually when Mads takes on a role, like, it's him, but there's an extra layer of, like, either creepiness or intensity to it where you're like, oh yeah, Mads killing it. But in this movie, it's like, you're just Mads Mikkelsen, which is fine, but, like, you're not doing anything else.
I think with this movie, to briefly touch on what you were saying, Arlen, about the controversy, I don't want to go deeply into it. I feel like they were stuck in a real catch-22 situation with that, where they could have gone with an Asian actor and then been accused of stereotyping, or they went with the route they did with Tilda Swinton. Exactly, the white. What is it? She's Scottish. I can't remember her exact.
Yeah.
And so they were. It was a rock and a hard place for them. They were kind of damned if they did, damned if they didn't.
Yeah, like, what do you do? Like, do you go with Fu Manchu design of the ancient one from way back when to piss off an entire population?
Exactly.
Here's what you do: you cast a young, hot Asian actor or actress, and then that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I do agree with that also.
That's what rational people think about, and Hollywood's not full of rational people.
Yeah. But my other point was going to be, I feel like you're unfairly, to an extent, misaligning this film, just because it had a lot of things that it had to do, and it was trying to follow the Marvel plotline. Essentially, it was trying to be an Iron Man film, except with magic. And
it's an Iron Man film.
It was trying to introduce the entire world of magic to the Marvel universe in a single film.
Yeah.
Because Thor has gone so far astray from doing any of that, which should have kind of been a light introduction to it in the long run.
Thor spends way too much time fiddly fucking around on Earth for any of us to really learn about the magic side of the mystical sci-fi element of Marvel, which is like it's like magic in Marvel is like, there's a scientific explanation for it, but I'm not going to tell you.
Right.
And I think Doctor Strange did a very good job of introducing the idea of this magical realm that exists underneath the surface of everything, but it was then also hamstrung by the fact that it was trying to tell this Iron Man story, essentially. Unfortunately, Mads and Tilda were just casualties of that.
I agree, but I mean, we went into this in the Black Panther review a little bit, and I guess I expect more at this point. Like,
yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, like, and here's the thing: Phase 3 overall, and this is why I think it is the best phase we've had so far. It has had the best villains. I brought it up then. We brought it up in this episode. Zemo is really great. Michael Keaton, who we're going to get to talk about a lot very soon here. Michael Keaton is great. We're going to talk about Michael B. Jordan again very soon here also.
Yeah. Like, even Kurt Russell we're going to talk about, and I think he works really well as a villain.
Yeah, and I mean, Cate Blanchett. So this whole phase has a very strong average in terms of villains. Yeah, who's secondary, but still a great villain. So yeah, and even like Carl Urban for a little bit there.
Oh God, he is the dark horse character for Ragnarok. But we'll get to him a little bit.
Yes, but so like, I don't know, this movie just, when you compare it to the rest of the movies in this phase, I guess it's definitely the weak one. It's it's the black hole that is taking a lot of the gravity out of the room, I think.
Go ahead.
It's a dark world.
Oh God.
I feel like I'm a little bit more forgiving of it because it was one, like, outside of Black Panther, which, God, that movie is so good. it's the only one I really feel that had a whole lot on its shoulders to prove, and
Right.
it didn't hit everything that people wanted, so it's automatically impugned and misaligned.
I guess that's fair. I also the thing is, what I'm liking more about Marvel as it's going along is that the movies are more different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Homecoming
they
and
become
Ragnarok,
they step out of like,
yeah,
oh, it's a superhero movie. Not really, because Winter Soldier is a fucking spy thriller.
yeah,
Oh yeah, it's a 70s
Yeah.
spy thriller through and
Civil
through.
War is a globe-trotting like political conflict
right,
thriller
yeah,
that's got superheroes in it. Ragnarok is a space opera.
Yeah.
Homecoming is a fucking John Hughes movie.
yeah, and they all feel like that. Whereas this movie, there were a lot of people saying this is a horror movie and it has Scott Derrickson, so it's very scary. It's
Yeah.
not
Nope.
really.
No.
It's like,
No.
and here's the thing, like if
It's more like
if I change the lead character of The Sorcerer's Apprentice to Doctor Strange, and I just said that he's Doctor Strange, and said that was part of the MCU,
Fuck you.
none of you would be defending this movie as hard as you are. None
No.
of you would be. Because as far as I'm concerned, quality level isn't that far off from the two
Oh
films.
wow, that's harsh.
Hey, whoa! I don't even hate the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
You know what?
Back off.
I think they should have taken an idea from what you just said and cast Nicolas Cage as Doctor Strange, and it would have been a way better
Wait.
movie.
Wait a second.
I want that.
You're
movie.
fired.
Teach me right now. Look, I don't believe in chakras or mysticism or any of this stuff. Okay, just you're all a bunch of phony baloney.
I need the eye of
I need
Armageddon.
the eye. Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
All right.
Please sign my checks, Disney.
All right. Okay. So
Okay, but honestly, my biggest problem with this movie is Doctor Strange. You think he
Mhm.
sucks? I think he's not even remotely likable. I think he's just another like smart asshole, and the MCU doesn't need any more of those.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Here's my biggest criticism I give the MCU, and which is why like it's one of the few things I always say about the DCEU that is I like is that everybody in Marvel has a fucking quip. Everybody's wit is as sharp as a tack.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree
Like
with that.
everyone is super funny and snappy and
Mhm.
you know jackassish. And then it's very understandable to look at Doctor Strange and be like, you are one of the worst symptoms of this.
Yeah. Because I
Yeah,
don't know
no, I
if Doctor
can-
Strange needed to be funny. Like,
I don't think he will be going as funny going forward though.
no,
'Cause
I don't think he will.
It seemed to me like that was just sort of like something they did in the first.
And if you're gonna go the funny approach and make him an asshole, make him such an asshole that
Right.
it comes off as comic.
Yeah.
Because in the comics I'm reading right now, he is such a rude dick to everybody. It tickles me.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It is awful.
I just don't think he's charismatic as a lead. He
I
doesn't
mean,
like.
Yeah.
Like,
They should have
And
just
that's
like
yeah.
I think Benedict Cumberbatch can be a good lead, but he needs like someone to play off. Like in
Mhm.
like the only reason Sherlock is even watchable is because of what's his name, Watson.
Freeman.
Yeah. Well,
Mar-
that's
Martin Freeman.
yeah.
Like in this, he's just like he feels like the lead alone, and he's just shitty.
Yeah. Well, like he should be with Wong for like the majority of
Yes.
the movie. Like
Yeah.
it should be
Yes.
a buddy cop movie with him and Wong, and it's not. And it would be a far better movie if it were. And because I think those are the things that I think work the best as far as even his jokes.
Oh, Wong's the fucking best because like
Yes.
Wong is so dry and so like see the approach to Wong works better than does it Strange because Strange, like I said, should be such a dick that it's comical, and
Mhm.
Wong is so dry and
Mhm.
so immovable that it's funny.
Yeah.
hmm
So that's a solution for future movies. So take notes, Scott Derrickson. Yes, I assume you're listening to this.
Yeah, Scott.
Also,
By the way, why'd you let Sinisters 2 happen, huh? You could have
Why-
said something or something.
why didn't you just quit Day After Tomorrow halfway through? They wouldn't have been able to do it without you. I guarantee it. Yeah. Okay. I guess we can go into like the effects of this movie on other movies now.
Okay, this is where I think
I-
this movie stands apart. I think the effects
Yeah.
of the movie are fantastic. I think they're incredible.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think we've really felt the effects that this movie has had on other films yet, because, like I was saying, it's introducing this entire new aspect of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it only had enough time to play with it in its own, and we haven't seen Doctor Strange and anything else yet. I think we're going to see a lot of that.
You saw him in Ragnarok.
A little bit.
You did, but briefly. I mean, and you saw a quarter of that scene at the end of Doctor Strange, anyways.
Yeah. What's funny about that is that like the deleted scenes of Ragnarok, where like before the reshoots, that entire sequence is completely different.
It's very different. And also,
he doesn't drop Loki out of falling out of nowhere. He puts him in a porta potty that he can't leave, but other people can enter.
It's so good. But like, and also that's another thing. His scenes in Ragnarok, where he's great and he's my favorite part of the movie, kind of, they make me like this movie less. It's like, oh wow, I saw someone use you properly.
Well, because I think you're seeing him as what he's supposed to be, which is the Sorcerer Supreme. He's got his fucking yellow gloves on, and he's just like, he's not really interested in anything Thor's doing except like, hey, yeah, I'm kind of you're here with Loki. That's a no-go. Okay, like go find your dad, get him out of here.
Yeah, he's very disconnected and like, get the fuck out of here. Let me do my job.
This is the Earth realm. You don't belong here right now.
Like Thor does, but like he's like, go get your dad, get your troublemaker brother, and get out.
Right. So yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, but I think we're gonna see a lot of the effects. I think Doctor Strange is gonna have a bigger part of Infinity War that we just haven't seen yet.
Definitely.
I do wonder if it's just going to be like one of Thanos' like sidekicks is a wizard and they just fight each other.
Yeah, that's what I'm understanding from everything I'm hearing about Ebony Maw, I guess the character's name.
Ooh, I don't know.
Well,
I
think we discussed this before the show started. Okay, so I'm reading New Avengers, Ben Hickman's New Avengers run. Ebony Maw appears to be working for Thanos and almost immediately turns on him.
Oh.
He he doesn't like attempt to kill Thanos, but like he gets to Earth and goes like, yeah, fuck this whole Infinity Gem thing. I'm gonna go off on my own and kind of figure my own shit out. And he has his own plan, and he kind of uses Strange as a vehicle / puppet.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
like
gonna be something.
In that same run, like the Ebony Maw is kind of existing within Strange's mind, but also outside of it at the same time. So
like there's a few panels where Strange is he's looking at the secret tribes of Inhumans, is he not?
He's looking for a certain
a certain character. And his shadow is on the rocks, and the shadow actually like starts to move and stands next to him, and it's Ebony Maw.
Huh, you know, this all sounds sounds a lot like... This sounds like the end of Thor 1. The credit scene with Loki. Or was that Captain America? Which one has Loki, like, popping out of Selvig's body?
Oh, shit. I think it's Thor.
Oh, yeah.
It's very similar sounding.
Right.
It sounds almost identical.
Yeah, like Ebony Maw gets to Earth and he's like, what if I want my own Infinity Stone, huh?
Okay, so that throws some things in there, but I think we're gonna see a lot of the magic stuff affect this next one. Although I do think that we're sort of getting a defined idea of what other realms are like. You know what space is like. You know, I think the ancestral plane in Black Panther is much more acceptable after you've seen Doctor Strange go to like 2001: A Space Odyssey land.
You mean Jack Kirby Bright Color World?
Right. That because the flower they're consuming technically comes from space, like its source. Like the ancestral plane could actually be a tangible place you could visit.
Yeah. Seems like it.
Like it's some sort of stone.
Yeah, almost like it's some kind of stone. Some kind of gem.
I hate to be that guy, but in one of the TV spots, Thanos is shown to have the soul gem. So, if you want to go look for that, knock yourselves out.
Yeah, that's interesting. Anything that we might not think is obvious from this movie that has sort of affected the other movies?
mind you, I'm on the side that I actually still do enjoy this film. I feel like this movie put all its cards on the table, and there isn't a whole lot to misinterpret that they're trying to tell.
Right.
And here's something else to think about this movie. Like, we've discussed this up and down. When the hell does this movie take place?
Okay, so so during our Jessica Jones review, I shared a timeline, and you're gonna have to go through it in order to. But that timeline does explain Doctor Strange and his timeline. His stuff happens like a year before Civil War, like it's that close.
But his car accident. Because right before his
that's
car
like
accident,
2 years before Civil War.
They reference the fact.
Yeah.
They reference the soul, like someone was paralyzed in an experimental suit of armor. I'm like, okay, that's either Civil War or that's Iron Man 2.
His car crash is
that's 2 on the nose.
His car crash is May 6th, a day after Stark signs the Sokovia Accords.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yes.
So wait, that means for that world that there are still fools out there who are still trying to replicate Tony's armor and still fucking up.
Yeah, that's what the sounds of it.
That's hilarious.
Have you been on YouTube?
Exactly.
No, why?
No, just people in general trying to replicate parts of Tony's armor.
I mean, hell, I saw a robot do a backflip and it scared the shit out of me. But
I'm more terrified of the cow-looking robots that you can't kick over.
It just stood back up. What do we do?
No, it doesn't even fall over.
Oh wow, the events of Doctor Strange take place after Black Panther. So, what the hell?
Well, no, I mean Black Panther. It makes sense based on everything we know.
Yeah, because Black Panther takes place like right after Civil War.
It's like a week. It's a full week.
Like the news is still running. The news is still running stories on T'Chaka's death.
So his training starts like the week before Halloween. So late 2017, and okay. Okay, then. The timeline is very strange. Okay, so I guess we're done with Doctor Strange then.
Yeah.
Unless anybody has like any final thoughts on that.
I still think it's a very visually pleasing movie, and I still.
There are aspects of it that I think hit really well with regards to magic and whatnot, but. Yeah, I mean, all in all, it's definitely not the strongest.
In a post-Inception world, I think it's damn beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's a movie I saw once.
Oh, God, you people.
Once too many.
All right.
Hateful monsters.
On to the second worst movie of this whole phase. No, I'm just kidding. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It came out
love
2017.
This movie just as much as I love Guardians 1. I don't think there's really much wrong with it.
I mean, that's a viewpoint that you can have, I guess.
I still think the first one is the better of the two, but I love this movie. I really enjoy this movie.
I don't think it's dog shit like people make it out.
No,
I love this movie to death.
Okay, it's a fun movie. I'll give you that. It's fun, but I don't know. Like I think
it's fucking silly.
To me, the first movie is like that's a perfect Marvel movie. Like that, it's perfect. There's no problems. I have no flaws with that movie. I think it's one of the best movies they've ever made. As I've said before, 2014 is the strongest year in the history of the MCU. Period. It's Winter Soldier and Guardians. You can't give me a stronger year.
I'm not gonna argue that.
Like. It's that one, and then every other year is below it as far as I'm concerned. Even now, even with Black Panther, even if Infinity War is the best Avengers movie, and even if Ant-Man and the Wasp is the best sequel they've ever done, I don't think they'll beat 2014. That's my viewpoint. I might be wrong. That said, I think Guardians it's fun and it's interesting, but I think it has all the problems that traditional comedy sequels have. Which is, well, let's just repeat all the same jokes that everybody liked from the first one until they get bored. And I think that hurts this movie quite a bit. And they don't pay attention to the plot. They don't pay as much attention to the action or the characters, and I think it really hurts the movie overall.
I will admit, I think the weakest thing about Guardians 2 is that it has too many subplots going on. They tried to break it down into too many different storylines, and they don't all pay off as well as they should. That being said, I still enjoyed all of them, but they definitely made the film feel a little bit less cohesive than the first one.
I mean, I can agree to that to an extent, but again, it doesn't adversely affect my enjoyment of it or my overall opinion of what I perceive as its quality.
No, I'm not saying that makes it a lower quality. I think it's just I can understand why some people might not enjoy it as much as the first one, at least based on that particular criteria.
So, I do think that the fucking Dragon Ball Z fight at the end is kind of stupid, but
I mean, these are all fun things.
No, but
okay, here's the thing I hate about this movie. I think it has the worst opening scene of any Marvel film. I think Baby Groot dancing fucking sucks, and I hate that scene. Baby Groot as a whole is the worst idea James Gunn's ever had.
Wow, okay, I did not expect that to come.
I don't agree with that at all. I also don't agree. I don't think that it was James Gunn's idea. I think that's a Disney move altogether.
No, so he's said many times that he thought that just picking up immediately after and it being a baby made more sense. No, somebody in marketing told you that you might get some of that marketing money from those Baby Groot toys, and then you said, "All right, I would like to never have to pay for my house ever again."
Descended from his ivory tower.
Right.
Yeah.
Put Groot a baby.
Oh, well, it just a quick side note, this might bum you guys out, but I don't know if any of you'd seen the one interview with James Gunn. He was talking about the fact that the Groot that's in the current Marvel universe is not the same Groot that existed before. Yeah. That Groot is dead. This is a new Groot.
Well, I heard it mentioned that he still retains those memories, but it's not the same. But then someone mentioned that, I was he's
like
a
a
tree.
flatworm.
I'm he's a tree. Of course not the same one. It's a sapling. How do you think we get more trees?
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah.
Someone was like, I know you like to make people look dumb, and you're trying to be a dick right now. I'm like, no, I'm really not trying to be a dick. I'm like, that's how, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, I feel like they're definitely, they don't translate that very well. And I understand it. After seeing that, it's that makes a ton of sense. But I feel like there's definitely going to be people who are like, but it's Groot. Why doesn't he remember?
It's like having a clone. It's the same. But it's not.
But it's not. Yeah.
I mean, that's all fair. I don't know.
My favorite thing about this movie is also I think it's just okay. I liked it a lot more the first time, and then knowing the jokes, you can see it's just it's a Marvel film, an average Marvel film with better than average jokes.
Yeah.
But here's my thing with that. Jokes aside, I think this has some of the best large action set pieces in Marvel, because James Gunn shoots action as if he's no, we're gonna show you everything, literally everything. We're gonna show you every crevice of this ship where fucking Yondu's arrow is hitting. We're gonna show you every single soldier that Rocket's messing up in this forest.
I agree. It has some good sequences. I don't know, just again, I just keep on going back to, I think the first Guardians is it's literally a perfect movie. If I take it out of the MCU, I would still think it's a perfect movie.
Well, if it's perfect, then the expectations to follow, it's working against itself.
Yeah, it is. I admit that. I just
almost doesn't seem fair.
It almost doesn't seem fair, but it's I still I have expectations though. I'm not gonna lower them. Really.
I think Kurt Russell's mesmerizing this movie too. I think Kurt Russell's on fire in this movie.
That's the thing. I think all the pieces are good. I don't know if it all fits together well as a whole. But I might be wrong.
No, I mean, I think that goes back to what I said earlier, is that there's a lot of different subplots going on, and they all become disjointed when you try and put them all together. That doesn't mean it's a bad movie and I didn't enjoy it, but I definitely feel like that is a weaker aspect of the movie.
Yeah, definitely.
I do think giving Sylvester Stallone his own Guardians theme is the coolest thing ever.
No, that's the thing. I like that. I like that Sylvester Stallone shows up, and he goes full Stallone, while Michael Rooker is going full Rooker, and that's a great combination that I never thought I would see on screen.
Yeah,
but it still is like, well, that's fun. I don't know if it really adds to the overall film, though.
Well, I would say the thing that Guardians as a film series whole is that it's the emotional center of the Marvel universe at this point.
I would say like, this movie shattered me.
Yep. Yep.
I think the Yondu plot is one of the best parts of the movie because
his overall stuff is good. I think.
Yeah, because like you mentioned the Sylvester Stallone thing, like he comes in like that's kind of the beginning of his little kind of arc in this movie because it's like you sold kids. He's like, I didn't want to.
While he's having sex with robot ladies, it's real cool.
Yeah.
You see half naked Yondu. It's real weird.
And I mean, just to continue my point with like how I think it's the emotional center of the Marvel universe. I guess second or third time I watched the movie, the minute that Cat Stevens song kicked in, like I started to mist up. Like that shows the strength of these characters, at least this particular band of characters, and how well they work.
Yondu putting Rocket in his place is amazing.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, he completely shatters Rocket's like faux tough guy exterior. He's like, yeah, you're just like me, so stop with the bravado and this bullshit act you're doing. He's like, I get you through and through right away.
Yeah, I do think all the character stuff works. I just don't think the plot works at all. I don't think it works. One bit.
If I'm gonna have to play devil's advocate, I do think it's all kind of like it's a bit fucking silly because it's like I put these tumors over all of these planets, now they're gonna blow up.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's your plan.
And there's a plot hole because it's the Avengers plot hole. Where like, if there is some kind of city-destroying event, there's no reason why one of them shouldn't show up.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like the whole universe is going to get destroyed, and we don't care at all. Like,
right.
That's
you see random planets get destroyed. It's like, oh, this is like The Force Awakens, but like times 15.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Man, do you know how long it took me to realize that The Force Awakens, like a fucking major last planet system died? I was like, hold on, what?
Yeah, it's like, oh, that was the entirety of the rebellion.
That was
finding this out now.
Yeah.
We didn't get that understanding in the movie.
Okay, and I will say, like, I enjoyed the personal stuff between Peter and his dad more than I did the kind of silly, like, fucking explosive stomachs that he put all over every planet.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. The relationships are the good part, but I think Eric, you talked about like it having too many plots. I don't think it has too many plots. It just has one too many, and that's the Gamora and
Nebula.
Because both those performances are bad. Like Zoe Saldana and Karen Gillian are you can't believe them at all. Like they're for me they don't work. Like
because Nebula's been a problem since the first movie.
Yeah.
And
I will totally agree to that.
Yeah. And here's the thing: if I have to go back to Guardians 1, and I have to pick out a thing that I think is bad from a movie that I've already said I think is perfect, it is Nebula in that movie. She does not work.
I think it's Ronan, and I like that character, but Ronan's just like Ronan's a screaming bad guy who just dies. That's it.
But he's going so camp that it becomes enjoyable. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the other half of it. It's like you're an ineffective bad guy. But your performance is so awesome. I can't help but love it.
Right. Whereas she is like, she's just there. And her most memorable line is, "Okay, Dad," or something like that. Or it's like, okay. And also, like, here's the thing. I was, like, right at the top of my being into Doctor Who-ness. So I was really excited because that's Karen Gillan.
And see, that's why
Same.
I won't bring myself to say anything bad about Karen Gillan, because she's a precious little flower.
Right.
And I won't say anything.
She's great, and I want better things for her, like a better role in these movies. I want her to do well in these movies.
Well, in Infinity War, she's probably the one who stops the entire ordeal.
Probably,
Yeah.
but it's like
Yeah.
everything that she's had to do up until then has kind of been like, eh.
Well, I think the problem is they had to get her introduced, because I think the plan all was for her to pick up the Infinity Gauntlet and be like, "Fuck you, Dad."
Yep.
You have to have her involved, but because she ends up being kind of like Wonder Woman and Batman vs Superman, where it's like, "Hey, everything about you is fine except where you belong."
Yeah, that's actually a fair comparison. She's so squished into both movies, and it makes me think that they should have started another space franchise before now, or maybe made Thor more space dependent in the second movie.
Yeah. And like, I have to stop and think about like the corporate shenanigans that may be going on behind like decisions that have these kind of results, where it's like, no, we have to have Nebula here, and we have to have Nebula here, and we have to have Nebula here.
Well, and that might still be the after effects of the Marvel comics, like Cabal, that was kind of working with the Marvel movie universe and the edicts they had for what was going to go on in the films.
Right. Yeah. Before Feige cleansed his
before he drop kicked them out a window.
Before he stood up for his Doctor Doom costume, it was like, no.
Settled all his scores, Godfather style.
Exactly.
Man, hold on. Is that why we have Civil War 2, the comic that came out around the same time as Civil War, the movie? Because fuck all that.
Most likely.
Yeah, that's probably
Most
an
likely.
Ike decision. That was most certainly an Ike decision.
Yo, I'm just going to use this platform. I'm going to use another show to just get this out there. Civil War 2 is one of the worst comic book events ever fucking read.
You just need to say this in Movie Dumpster, and then you'll have said it everywhere.
Pretty much. Yeah, I hope everyone involved creatively gets gets shingles. I hope you get termites. I hope you have holes in your shoes. Everything.
Right.
I hope your socks fall apart. I hope you get moths in your sweatshirts. Okay.
Okay.
I would think
we've had
petty plagues on you.
I think we have not enough comic stock for the movie podcast, so let's
let's move on. Let's move on to what's next on the list, Arlen.
Well, I mean, we're still in Guardians, but I think we've covered how this.
Yeah.
I mean, this affects
Nothing.
Infinity War in the later movies because of Nebula. She's the major sort of affecting thing, other than Gamora. But this movie is 4 years before Infinity War.
Exactly.
4 years?
There's 4 years in between this, so there's a lot of. So like, I wouldn't be surprised if Guardians 3 takes place before Infinity War. Like, that's how much time there is in between. Like, there will a lot of adventures will have taken place.
That's how you can probably get away with killing Drax or someone like that in Infinity War and having him show up in Guardians 3.
Yeah.
Like, Guardians 3 is just a flashback, which I'd be okay with. So yeah, I guess unless there's something else really affecting in here, maybe there's some stuff about the what are they called? Not the Ancients, the Eternals.
Oh, shit. Hang on, we glossed over this. They're about to introduce Adam Warlock, and he's a big deal.
Yeah, and
he is, but that's the thing. James Gunn has been very adamant about keeping the Guardians kind of separate from the larger Marvel universe. Like, they're going to appear in Infinity War, but that's always been kind of his edict, is that he wants to have his own little pocket side. And now, because of that,
the Guardians, I think in Infinity War basically be the cavalry.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they're going to show up they're going to show up in the nick of time, and everyone's going to lose their mind.
But we also learn so from Kurt Russell, we learn a lot about the Celestials, right?
Yeah.
At least in this universe, what they are in this universe, how they work. And I think that might have some effect maybe later down the line. That might play into some things. I don't really know. But
Galactus.
Maybe.
Nope.
But no, like we might meet a Celestial character in Infinity War at some point. I could definitely see that happening. There are definitely some things that I think this might have affected Ragnarok in some ways. I'm unsure how exactly.
You mean tonally? I think it did.
It did, definitely. It definitely had an effect on the tone, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like
I think the success of Guardian is the only reason something like Ragnarok can exist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Yeah. All right. I think we're good on Guardians for now, unless.
The last thing I was gonna say is that Ragnarok is also the reason why I think Guardians 2 isn't that good, because now I've seen something that's so much better that it's not comparable.
Okay, I do agree there, because Ragnarok because Taika Waititi's humor is there's nothing like it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you introduce something like that kind of has a Guardians flavor, you're like, oh, this is so much better. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, you can find me at MovieDumpsterPodcast.com. We just recorded an episode for the Runestone, and currently we have Big Bully out. It's available for download. And our next episode is going to be Frankenstein's Army, so stick around for that one.
Yeah, A. Harrow on the places. Next Lost Harrow episode should be Catherine Bigelow or our action movie episode. I don't know, but go listen to that. And I think I don't actually remember the last episode that we had, but go listen to that if this is your first Lost Horror episode. So, yeah.
Follow me on Twitter at Sayour, where I review every movie that I watch. So if you want my opinions on the very good The Death of Stalin, go there and you'll find it.
Don't follow me anywhere, but go check out the Secret Sessions podcast.
It just gets saltier and saltier.
I get angrier every time I do this. Secret Sessions podcast. Also, I'll probably be doing more guest spots in the near future, so look out for those.
Yeah, Godzilla episode coming soon.
Ooh. It's gonna happen.
Yes.
All
right. Bye, guys. Have a good
Bye.
week.
Bye.
Come and see about me.